Good afternoon and welcome to our special Halloween edition today, the second session of our new series, Where Are the Interns Now? My name's Eddie Barnes. I'm the new director here at the John Smith Centre, and I'm going to be your host for the next 30 minutes or so. Just a quick summary of what we do at the John Smith Centre. We exist here at the University of Glasgow to inspire and encourage people to get involved in politics and public life, especially young people. We do that through research. We study the relationship between the public and politicians, and especially between young people and politicians. We do it through the internships that we run, which we're going to be talking about today, the internships and development programs that are designed to break down the barriers between young people and public life, especially giving those people who have the talent but not the means to get involved in public life. And we do it through our advocacy, through campaigns, through events, which make the case for a better politics to try and inspire people to get involved in public life. We're currently celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. And we're marking that with a whole host of events. You should be able to see a little thing just come up there on the screen, just to give you a clue of some of the events that are coming up shortly. We have another event coming up just after the US elections in a couple of weeks' time, and another one in December. We'd love to have you along. Please do come. These are designed to kind of encourage you to get involved and to see how politics can be done perhaps a little bit better. On to today. We are delighted to welcome one of our former interns who is going to join us for our conversation today. So I'm delighted to welcome Rory MacDonald, former intern on our parliamentary internship programme, who joins us today from deepest Lanarkshire. Rory, lovely to have you on. How are you?
Thanks, Eddie. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me. Doing well, thank you.
Good. So we're going to spend the next half an hour or so just talking a little bit about how you found the internship program, what you're doing now, and a little bit about your views on the state of politics today and how we can get more young people involved. But just to kick us off, Rory, maybe you could introduce yourself a little bit and tell us what you did at the John Smith Centre and what the parliamentary internship program entailed for you.
Sure. Yeah. So, name's Rory. I'm a senior account manager at a company called newsdirect. I did the John Smith Centre internship in January 2020, so the second semester of my fourth year. Intern for Hamza Yusuf, and kind of majority of the time was spent working in his constituency office, kind of attending surgeries and visits with him in his constituency. And then after the kind of beginning of the COVID lockdown, kind of transitioned more into a kind of office administrator role, assigning casework to his kind of caseworkers at the time.
You were doing it during that whole COVID time. It must have been an amazing time to be involved, to see that some crisis hit. So tell us a little bit about what that was like for politicians to deal with and what you gained, what you saw from that at the time.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was quite surreal, as you can imagine. It's strange. I remember being in the office with a cold about a week before the lockdown, and everyone kind of going like,
God.
Yeah, and everyone kind of going like, "What's happening here?" So
why did we pick this turning?
Yeah, it was strange. I mean, obviously, so Hamza was in the cabinet at the time as the Justice Secretary, and so like, not that we had a scoop or anything, but was kind of speaking about just what's going to happen, like how's this going to unfold, and then the kind of move to I think it must have been a lot of pressure for them, because they were like, well, what do we give this guy to do? Like, we've got so much like important stuff coming into the office, and we need to. He's got 5 weeks of work to do. So, the role that they carved out for me, I'm so grateful for, because it did make me feel like I was kind of contributing to like their kind of output and helping people at the time. It was, kind of put at the kind of front of liaison of people
Yeah.
Because it's such a big, comes as such a big constituency. It was kind of just assigning based on postcode, to a different caseworker. So it was good. Like it was quite a bleak time, as you'll know, and it was nice to kind of feel like you're contributing something like positive.
Yeah, it's maybe something that people don't see necessarily as much. How those constituency offices play such an important role in local communities.
No,
They actually
absolutely.
really important hubs, particularly at a time of crisis like that. Where people suddenly are turning to their local politicians, be it councillors, MSPs, MPs, for actual support and guidance on how to manage and get through very difficult circumstances. But you were also, at the same time as being an intern, you were also studying at the same time. So how was that? How did you manage to kind of combine the two things? Because you were in fourth year, so you were preparing for your finals at the same time as dealing with all of this. It must have been quite a lot to handle at the same time.
Yeah, it was. I was kind of fortunate that it just so happened that the kind of modules that I chose, I only had one that semester, along with a dissertation. So there was just coincidentally kind of good balance there for me. So it was quite helpful. They felt kind of almost on kind of level footing for a time. But it was just kind of working the dissertation around that. So the dissertation was due in the February. I would like to say that the majority of work had been done by then, but there was the kind of typical scramble near the end of getting it finished. And I mean, thankfully, like, Hamza's office were so accommodating of me, like having the time to do that and working. It was, one day a week in the office. And so it was quite good of them to coordinate around deadlines and things like that. But, it was okay.
Yeah, fascinating time, as I say, to be involved. And what did you, if you could think of some, looking back, what were the kind of, you must have gone in with an impression of what politics was like, or, the political life was like. And after you'd finished, what were the what impressions had you gained, and what had you learnt, if you like, from that experience that, surprised you, or you found kind of, unusual, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, it was very surprising, but like in a really positive way. I kind of like thrown my hat in the ring for the internship, like just with a very vague understanding of what it would entail, and kind of quickly came to realize that I knew a lot less about Scottish politics than I thought I did, and also just the kind of processes that are in place for making everything tick. I was completely kind of naive to what a constituency office was, who worked there, the kind of jobs that they did, how involved like an MSP would be, and all of it was like, I came away from it with a very kind of positive attitude about what this system is, to be honest. I think, when you're just kind of watching the news, or, you kind of see the snippets of what goes on from what the news presents to you as a kind of day in the political life, I think it's quite easy to come away from that quite disheartened. It's just, there's so much kind of combativeness, there's a lot of kind of mudslinging, and it was really good to be in an environment full of lovely people who are really committed to doing good work, and they're committed to helping people. And I think like a lot of that also goes down to Hamza and the kind of culture that he created in his office. He was far more involved in like his constituency than I could have imagined a person like how busy he is being.
And he was just the secretary during COVID at the time. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it had just been after I left, but the hate crime bill was being worked on as well.
Right.
So like the amount of responsibility that he had as a government cabinet secretary would have been immense.
Yeah.
And then on a Friday, I would kind of be in the office and we'd go visit a primary school or a charity, and we'd spend ages speaking to people and attending surgeries and hearing concerns of people and doing something about them. It was really impressive.
I'm definitely going to show him this video because I'm sure he'll be keen to hear your good reviews. But it is a really interesting insight into a bit of politics that we don't get to see, as you say, in the newspapers or on the TV. So I've got something to read out now, because to make sure that having given people an insight into the internship, to let people know that if you want to make sure you don't miss any future applications, this is to people listening, rounds of our internship program, you can sign up to our newsletter. Again, just click that QR code. We've recently just been doing applications for next year's internship program, but these internship programs run every year, and they're a fantastic opportunity, not just for students at the University of Glasgow, but for elsewhere as well in Scotland. So for those people watching, please do have a look, and we'd love to have your applications in. So Rory, that was the experience you had, and you've given us a really interesting insight into what you did and what you learned from that. But tell us a little bit about how that experience changed you or influenced you when it came to then, after leaving university, moving into your career. I should say you're now working for newsdirect. Tell us a little bit about what they do, just to begin with.
Yeah, so newsdirect, we monitor the kind of activity of the Scottish Parliament, Scottish government, UK government, and just the kind of party political scene. And we kind of offer like a non-biased. We essentially just kind of summarize and highlight relevant pieces of news to various organizations that come to us for kind of helping hand. So the way we kind of like to see is that we're doing the kind of nitty-gritty work of keeping up to date with kind of relevant areas of policy interest for clients, and it allows them to focus on their kind of public affairs, communications, kind of developing policy. So it feels like you're kind of contributing to their kind of work, you know.
And can you give us I don't know if you get any specific examples where you can think of where your experience in the internship program, has influenced the way you work now at all? Is there any? Did that experience, as I say, have you taken some of that experience into the work you do today?
I would say so. I mean, so the internship was my first experience of an administrative role, like
Right.
working in an office. So really long term, that's been invaluable. Just honestly, just knowing how to kind of like, manage your time in an office setting, and kind of tone for communicating with people. Like, like things can get lost in translation when you're emailing people, especially people you don't know. And so honestly, the kind of very basic skills that way were really helpful. But the kind of passion it gave me for Scottish politics kind of drove me to applying for this job. I mean, it is probably as nitty-gritty you can get without working in the Parliament for
Right.
Parliamentary processes. Like, I mean, we cover every committee, every plenary session. We've got a very good idea of what's going on. And so kind of being able to kind of have that kind of basic knowledge of...
Oh dear, I think we've lost Rory. Rory, you're back. Good. Sorry, Lanarkshire just briefly. The satellite must have just avoided Lanarkshire for a couple of seconds there. Anyway, carry on. You were telling us a little bit about the nitty gritty you're involved in at the moment in this work. What the Parliament is doing. A kind of deep dive into what the Parliament is doing.
Yeah, look, just a constant deep dive. It's never ending. Yeah. But I mean, again, like the kind of good thing kind of coming from the background of the internship is having that kind of knowledge of, you've got your kind of local government level, constituency level, Westminster kind of level, just understanding the kind of layers and how things work. And then you're able to, through the work that I do, you're kind of able to kind of, apply these kind of relevant topics to where they kind of lie within that kind of hierarchy. So it's been good.
Did the internship help in terms of just, getting a job and then giving you the contacts, if you like, that help people find? How did it help you in terms of just getting that first rung on the ladder? Because that's in many ways what we're trying to do with these internships, is just ensure that, that first rung can sometimes be very, very, high, and it's often very difficult for people who don't have good connections or whatever, or can't afford just to go off on an unpaid internship to get on that first rung. So, I guess I'm interested in how did it make that the height of that first rung? Did it bring it down a little bit so that you were able to make that first step?
100%. Like I mean, the background that I come from, like, with my family is like politically engaged, but not within a kind of employment aspect, And so having the kind of opportunity to, I mean, A, be paid to do it, and B, just kind of just, I left school to study politics, just kind of thinking that it was the House of Commons and you either worked there or you didn't. And that was effectively it, Um, and so not only did it kind of uncover all these kind of, the work that you could do
Mm.
outside of the Scottish Parliament, but also the industries kind of based around it. That was invaluable. The you know on my CV, it was the internship was stuck between working at a chippy and working at Greg's. So the being able to have that and
Yeah.
obviously have an education, but be able to kind of apply to thing and say like I have work experience too. Like it's really invaluable.
And it's because it's one of the phrases we use is that one of the points of the John Smith Centre is to try and demystify the political process. You sometimes speak to people and it's the genuine people who are so interested in politics, young people who are really kind of keen to get involved, but don't there isn't we're not very good in the political bubble at giving people who are outside that bubble a kind of a path to say, well, here's how you actually get involved. And as I say, it looks kind of a mystifying place where these people who just happen to somehow be involved in politics are cracking on, and everybody else outside is kind of excluded from that. I'm interested in just in terms of, you've already talked about that a little bit, but both you and your fellow interns who you met, did you feel that that people did feel excluded from that bubble, and B, that the internship program helped ensure that it did demystify that whole process for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of friendly with a couple of guys in the same cohort as me, so I think obviously speaking on kind of the behalf of the three of us, I would say so.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. As much as I wanted to work in politics, or I thought I wanted to work in politics, I didn't really know what kind of route would exist.
Yeah.
I mean, like I thought again, like to kind of touch on the fact, I think a massive thing is pay.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a student and you're trying to kind of pay rent and things like that. Like, very few people have the luxury of taking unpaid stuff, and then it's also about knowing where to look for it and is anyone even providing it.
Yeah.
So
No, I think
yeah,
that's hugely important. And of course, because if it's unpaid, then you tend to, it obviously excludes a certain group of people who just simply can't afford to go off and take that time. So that's immediately excluding a big chunk of people.
And
so
in my opinion, they're the kind of groups of people that need to be seeing these things.
Yes.
Like it's like people I would say from my backgrounds, like yeah, you need kind of a larger kind of group of voices that don't come from that place. I think that contributes more to the
exactly
kind of what's going on.
Which again is very much what the whole kind of John Smith Centre is all about, is trying to kind of increase the number of diverse voices that are out there who are coming into politics, so that because we genuinely believe that's how you get a richer politics. So just in terms of your own career now, you're in this, as I say, working in newsdirect in this kind of public affairs role. What would your advice be to a student now in terms of how to get where you are today, in terms of what should they be doing if they want to kind of get into this world? If then not everybody can do an internship, unfortunately, but what would your advice be to them?
I mean, the first thing would be to apply to this, but I did really find having some experience of an office very useful. I think even that in itself was quite demystifying from going exclusively from food service, and just knowing how a kind of office worked. But I think it's kind of hard to say, because as we've said, I mean, the opportunities can be limited. So I think it's just trying to kind of make yourself as aware if you can. I mean, volunteering, I think if you have the time and the means to do so, can be very beneficial. Charities in Scotland or organisations are working outside of the political sphere, trying to influence different areas of policy. So, if there's something if there's a particular issue you're passionate about, and you feel you have the time to give, if you can, I think that's something that's worthwhile doing, because if you eventually kind of apply for something, although you maybe wouldn't have the kind of paid work experience from it, it kind of shows interest and a kind of willingness to kind of put your interests into practice.
And we're going to close off in about 5 minutes or so, but a more general question, in many ways targeted towards politicians in general at the moment, about how do politicians encourage, and what do they need to change in order to encourage and inspire more young people to get involved, do you think? Because we do have this problem about low turnout, low engagement. We saw it at the election. I'm just interested in whether how do we actually what are the changes we need in order to get more young people interested in being involved in politics, do you think?
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing for me, that kind of initially really kind of getting into politics. I mean, I could vote at 16. My first vote was in the independence referendum, and we're very fortunate at the time that my school organized for us to go to a debate between the different sides. I think a lot of it starts in schools, honestly. So I mean, if you're an elected member, I mean, getting out to your schools and seeing people kind of giving more insight into the kind of day-to-day work that a constituency office does, because I think if more people were to see the work that caseworkers and that they do, they would see that there is a really positive side to politics. It's in place for a reason. But I think on a kind of grander scale, I think more honesty is required. I think a thing that puts a lot of people off of engaging in politics is how dishonest it's perceived to be. And I mean, part of that is justified, and then some of it isn't. And then just personally, again, I would say and I mean, I think this will be something that's agreed kind of across the spectrum. I think kind of tensions seem to be at an all-time high between different parties, and I mean, some of that, in my opinion, can be justified. But for the kind of day-to-day workings, I think people want to see what they would imagine themselves to do in situations like this, which is more cooperation, kind of less kind of mudslinging, either in the build-up to elections or you watch Prime Minister's Questions, and the number of people that I know who are less kind of engaged in politics than I am see something like that, and they just have an immediate dislike for everyone involved, because it's well, these people are running the country. Why can't they behave like they're adults? So I think there's a lot of layers to it, obviously, but I would say those kind of would be my kind of key kind of takeaways from it.
It was really interesting. I don't know if you watched yesterday. There was the budget debate. Had a proper there's a proper kind of set to between Rachel Reeves and Rishi Sunak, and they were both very robust and competent, but there was the usual, quite a lot of kind of politics throwing back and forth. But right prior to that, there was first Prime Minister's Questions, where Sunak decided to be very kind of pleasant and non-combative, and it was quite refreshing. It was really quite refreshing, and the two of them, there was a lot. And as you've said throughout this last half hour, you realise underneath this layer of almost theatre, and not very good theatre, that lies a lot of agreement and a lot of consent. A lot of agreement and not that we necessarily want everybody to agree with each other, but a much better way of doing things than simply just this Punch and Judy show.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that perspective is something you get from watching sessions of either committees or plenary sessions that aren't First Minister's or Prime Minister's Questions. I think although the presentation a lot of the time is kind of highlighting these kind of zingers and one-liners, there's a lot of, I mean, most committee sessions, most sessions of portfolio questions, members' business debates, there is a lot of cooperation. There's a lot of agreement. And I think if more effort was made to show people that although there are ideological differences, and sometimes it isn't possible to meet in the middle with certain topics,
Yeah.
with how people are placed, but a lot of these people agree more than they disagree, you know.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
it's just highlighting that, and
Yeah.
I think if you could feel that you were, as a voter, participating in something that was productive, you'd be more inclined to do it, you know.
Yeah. Brilliant. Rory, we're going to end it there because our half an hour is coming up. But thank you so much for giving us such a brilliant insight into this layer underneath the kind of political theatre that you've really kind of helped us with, you know, both in the work you're doing now and also the which you saw through the work you're doing now and in the internship program. And I hope that really, for anybody listening, I hope that really encourages and inspires people to themselves get involved, either through the internship programs we do or just simply by seeking out opportunities elsewhere. If you enjoyed the conversation with Rory, we have many more of these sessions planned throughout the coming months. If you're interested in what we're saying, please follow us on X, on LinkedIn or Instagram to make sure not to miss them. The QR code has come up again with our newsletter, which comes out regularly and gives us updates on what we're doing. So please do subscribe to that if you wish as well. Once again, Rory, thank you so much for taking time out of your working day to explain, to let us know about your internship and what you're up to now and your thoughts on politics. We'd love to know what you thought, the viewers here thought about the Where Are the Interns Now session. So I'd be very grateful if you could complete the really quick survey. Again, the QR code is up to let us know if you found today interesting and anything more. So please do fill that in if you can. So I'll repeat again my thanks to Rory on your behalf. It's great to see you doing so well. And to the rest of you, all those watching, have a good day and goodbye for now.